Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2024 Virtual Summit, hosted by Jobs for the Future's National Innovation Hub for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. My name is Gary Courtney, and I'm the Project Director for the Innovation Hub for DEIA, and I'm honored to be your host as we embark on this important journey together. The National Innovation Hub for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility provides strategies and customized support for employers, education providers, intermediaries, and government entities to drive diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in registered apprenticeship. Our goal is to improve access and outcomes for all women, people of color, people with disabilities, workers who live in rural communities, people who identify as LGBTQ+, and individuals who have been involved with the criminal justice system. Over the next 2 days, we will explore the transformative power of registered apprenticeships in creating inclusive career pathways. Apprenticeships have long been a bridge between education and employment, providing valuable on-the-job training and skill development. However, it is essential that these opportunities are accessible to all individuals, regardless of their background, race, gender, or socioeconomic status. This year's summit theme, Building Inclusive Pathways Through Registered Apprenticeship, underscores the importance of creating equitable pathways for individuals from diverse backgrounds. And our summit will bring together experts, practitioners, and advocates from various fields to share insights, strategies, and success stories. We have an exciting lineup of speakers, panel discussions, designed to inspire, educate, and empower you, from addressing systematic barriers to highlighting innovative practices. Our goal is to deliver content and formatting where every participant can benefit from these rich discussions. I encourage you to actively participate, ask questions, and connect with your fellow attendees. Your engagement is crucial in making this summit a success and driving forward the vision of inclusive pathways for all. Thank you again for joining us for the 2024 Innovation Hub for DEIA Virtual Summit. Together, we can build a future where registered apprenticeships are not only a stepping stone to individual success, but also a cornerstone of a more equitable and inclusive society. Please enjoy the summit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam Sullivan, and I'm a senior director in JFF in our Center for Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. JFF, we're a national nonprofit, and our work sits at the intersection of education and workforce development. Our mission is all about ensuring equitable economic advancement is possible for all workers and learners. And at the Center for Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning, our work is really focused on empowering stakeholders and delivering high-quality apprenticeship and work-based learning pathways. And I'm really excited for this conversation with John Ladd, administrator at the Office of Apprenticeship. I'm excited because it's a full circle moment for me as a former presidential management fellow with the U.S. Department of Labor decades ago, but I'm thrilled to have a conversation about the state of DEIA in registered apprenticeship. And the topic is so important today. It aligns with JFF and our North Star goal that by 2033, 75 million facing systemic barriers will have and will work in quality jobs. And this is squarely aligned with registered apprenticeship. So John, I'm being a fangirl because I'm having this conversation with you, but please tell the audience about your office and the why, right? Why is DEIA so important to apprenticeship and the system as a whole?
Sure. Thanks, Miriam. Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks so much for having me this as you're viewing this. Our office is within the Employment and Training Administration here within DOL, and we have responsibility for overseeing the National Apprenticeship System, which is really a broad network of partners across the United States, including, obviously our state partners, but our industry partners, including employers and labor, but a broader ecosystem of stakeholders and other players that help to enrich the apprenticeship experience for our apprentices. And so, core to our mission and core to what we do is to protect the safety and welfare of apprentices. And a big component of that is ensuring equal opportunity for all apprentices. And so it's been our mission here now for as long as I've been here, but certainly with this administration, we're really focused on expanding apprenticeship, diversifying apprenticeship, and modernizing apprenticeship. And so DEIA is really at the heart of that mission and of those goals. We have equity really at the center of a lot of what we do. And it's really critically important that we do that for a number of reasons. We believe that apprenticeship should reflect the communities in which it operates. And we have a lot of work to do to meet that goal. We want to make sure that everybody has access to, the incredible good jobs that are created and that, apprenticeship leads to. And we're in this really important moment, right, where there are major significant federal investments that are happening through the bipartisan infrastructure law, through the CHIPS and Science Act, through the Inflation Reduction Act. These historic federal investments are going to generate countless numbers of new good jobs all across the country. And it's so critical that every American has access to these opportunities, and registered apprenticeship is really a pathway into these jobs. So it's incredibly important to our mission. It's incredibly important to kind of who we are, but it's also incredibly important as we help support the administration's goals to promote and support these critical industries, to develop the workforce that's going to be needed to support these industries, and making sure that everybody has equitable access to these opportunities.
Yeah. Thanks so much, John, for opening up with that, that being a core driving factor of the work of the administration and the work of the Department of Labor and the Office of Apprenticeship. We've seen your leadership in this space, and I'd love to jump to, hearing about some of the key initiatives or strategies that the Office of Apprenticeship in particular that you're implementing to ensure a more inclusive and equitable system.
Sure, absolutely. So, I think from the beginning, we've really tried to think about this and have believed that we need a really comprehensive strategy to address equity in apprenticeship, that, there really isn't a single, silver bullet that is going to address these issues and challenges. So, we're borrowing from our acting secretary's sayings here, where she talks about unleashing our full power. And so, we really take that to heart and try to think about, what are the levers that we have at the federal government, and how can we utilize those to support greater equity in apprenticeship. So I'll just touch on a couple of those things, and I'm sure we'll get into others later. But a key area for us, right from the beginning was embedding equity into all of our investment strategy. Since the beginning of this administration, we've invested over $446 million in registered apprenticeship, but we have embedded equity and DEIA strategies in every investment that we make. So whether that's in funding and support to states to expand their apprenticeship systems, to the competitive grants like Apprenticeship Building America, to the work that we do with industry intermediaries, there's always an equity component to each of those efforts. But we didn't stop there. We also made a very large investment in it's really the single largest investment in pre-apprenticeship. When we entered into a partnership with Trades Futures, we invested almost $20 million to expand quality pre-apprenticeship. Again, with this idea of how do we expand the pipeline? How do we expand access to pre-apprenticeship? and particularly in the infrastructure and construction industries that are going to see, really significant job growth as a result of these federal investments. So investments have been a big area for us. Policy and technical assistance is another key area that we think about a lot. Just recently, we published our a comprehensive equal employment opportunity circular. There's a lot of information around a sponsor's obligations for EEO, but it was spread out in a lot of different places, and we believed it was really important to bring all that information together to have one guidance document that really laid out, what are all those responsibilities that sponsors of registered apprenticeship programs need to meet, and have resources and other information available in one single document. So we issued that circular, but we've also put up a lot of information on apprenticeship.gov. We started a Registered Apprenticeship Academy that has tremendous EEO and equity and inclusion resources on it. I encourage everybody to take a look at that. And then, of course, the amazing work we do with you all at Jobs for the Future with the DEIA TA Center. That was really a landmark effort to really make technical assistance resources more broadly available throughout the system. So that has been a key piece. And then I'll put in a plug for, there's also the side of data and enforcement. That's obviously a big function that we do as the registration agency, ensuring that sponsors are meeting their obligations. But we're trying to do more with data and make that data more publicly available and more transparent. We just recently published a new dashboard, a population dashboard, which for the first time really gives everybody, easy access to be able to look at, how participation in apprenticeship programs compare to populations availability in the workforce. So again, this is up on apprenticeship.gov. I encourage people to take a look, but we think that's really important to get information out to folks and be as transparent about that as possible.
Yeah, you've shared a lot, and I liked your opening comments about, in all of the investments, there's a through line that, that we could all see as system stakeholders in all of the investments that are coming out from the Office of Apprenticeship, that DEIA is a priority. And I do think that creates some intention in the field. I know in some of the projects that I lead, we're not backing into making sure our programs are equitable and inclusive. It's at the design phase. So I do see system stakeholders are coming to program development with intention. And you talked about the EEO regs, and I know my colleagues in the DEIA Innovation Hub, funded by the Department's Center of Excellence, they're traveling across the country working with state offices of apprenticeship, providing that technical assistance around EEO. So I'm seeing, like, in all parts of the system, how what's coming from the feds is just trickling down in whatever spheres we're at. But there are still some barriers. The system's grown tremendously since 2015. What barriers are you seeing? I mean, there's been incredible growth. You talked about the data. I'm being long-winded with this question. You talked about the data and having access to that. And we've mined that data, right? We've seen the growth, we've seen the wages. And the hub, we're working on understanding completion behavior, right? So we're using that data to understand completion behavior. We're going to tie that with some qualitative data, to hear from folks in the system about their experiences. So what are you seeing as some of the most significant barriers, and what steps are you all taking to address them?
Sure. So I guess I would go back again to, some of the things we talked about earlier, how, the solutions really have to be comprehensive because, the challenges are multiple and complex. And, they range from, structural and societal barriers, including, occupational segregation, discrimination, harassment on the job, as well as, some the lack of funding that's available to support some of the programmatic needs that we know work, things like pre-apprenticeship and supportive services. We have good evidence now that those strategies are really effective in supporting and improving equity and access to apprenticeship programs. So, as part of our Apprenticeship Building America grants, we put a significant focus on pre-apprenticeship and supportive services. Those are not just allowable activities, but encouraged activities. We want to make sure that all barriers to not only entry, but to persistence and completion are thought about as people are designing these programs, and we want to make sure those resources are available. But we're also looking at how we can improve our outreach and promotional efforts, make sure people understand their rights related to, that everybody has the right to work in a harassment-free environment. We've launched the Registered Apprenticeship Academy and put additional resources on apprenticeship.gov to make sure people understand their rights, know what they can do if they are experiencing a harassment or discrimination. And so again, there's a comprehensive range of things that we're looking at.
Yeah, that's really great. And you talked about the ABA grants round 2 and being explicit around making pre-apprenticeship allowable. It's something that we've been calling for a little bit. I led our American AEMF, American Expansion, and I don't know anymore, the AEMF contracts, and where the DOL was calling for innovation, and our innovation was like, let's build out pathways too, right? Where we know to have access, you need to build bridges in, and maybe that's pre-apprenticeship, maybe it's other occupational training that can happen even before the pre-apprenticeship opportunity. So really giving folks everything that they need so that they can enter, so that they can persist, and also succeed in a registered apprenticeship pathway. So, for us, from where we sit, that was really exciting to see in the FOA or the RFP that came out. But when we talk about like measuring success, right? We all want to know, like, are we doing a good job? How are you measuring progress or success within the system? Are there particular metrics or indicators that you all are at the department are looking at to say, hey, we have this focus and we're seeing, incremental steps or success?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. So we kind of have a simple goal and a simple metric. It's simple in some ways, but it's complex in others. But again, our goal and the metric that we're trying to implement is that we believe registered apprenticeship programs should reflect the communities in which they operate. So behind that idea is, again, we understand that the country is broad and diverse, and so we want to make sure that that's reflected in that statement. So, because often we tend to look at national numbers and national figures, and often that can mask and not necessarily tell the whole story. So we want to be able to drill down. We want to be able to look at specific communities, and again, this idea of, do apprenticeship programs reflect, the available workforce in the communities in which they operate? So that's the idea behind the new dashboard that we recently published. And again, people can go to apprenticeship.gov and look at that. And, ultimately, we hope to be able to refine that so people can look at it, not just by geography, which is how it's organized now, where you can look at, by state and drill down, or look at it by region. But ultimately, we know that people are interested in looking at it by industry and by occupation, because we want to look at other metrics that get a little bit more refined. But before, talking about that, I will say we're also looking at absolute numbers of targeted populations participation in apprenticeship. And so that's often a top line number that we look at. And we're also been doing significant evaluation work to be able to do more sophisticated analysis and look at a whole range of other issues. Some of the things that came out from the AAI evaluation was looking at comparative wage gains for different populations, and we're really encouraged to see that AAI grants did have really strong wage gains for a broad range of populations, and in some cases the wage gains for women outpaced the wage gains for men. So that was really encouraging to see. We want to look at differences in completion rates for various populations. We want to, again, make sure not only are people having the opportunity to participate in an apprenticeship program, but are they persisting? Are they able to complete? Are we being successful in removing those barriers to completion so that we don't see those variations? But ultimately, we want to get to that place where we have really a broader host of metrics that we could really look at so that we can measure, again, not just participation, but, the broader array of dimensions of equity, particularly around, wages. Are people earning a living wage? Are people able to complete their programs? And so those are some of the things that we're looking at next.
Yeah, that's really exciting. As a researcher myself at JFF, we conducted a study where we really wanted to understand the experiences of apprentices, right? And so I led a study that examined, the experiences of Black women in STEM apprenticeships who had significantly positive outcomes, where I think the qualitative study gave some additional insight around completion. So I think adding, qualitative measures to your work, it'll provide invaluable insights around the experiences of the folks that are going through the system. But, shifting the conversation a little bit, at the center, we always talk about, we all have a role in the system, right? There's no innocent bystander. We all have a role. We're talking about DEIA, and whether you're a caseworker, whether you're a program sponsor or an employer, we all have our own role in making sure that we're building a dynamic system that's inclusive for everyone, right? So what role, and we can start with employers, but what role do you think employers play? And how does your office incentivize their engagement in building equitable programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously employers, industry broadly, are at the heart of apprenticeship programs, right? These are not government-run programs. These are industry, often, invested and managed programs, and you can't have an apprenticeship program without employers. But we really do believe that, apprenticeship is a critical tool to helping industry build a strong and diverse workforce. And so, we increasingly are seeing more and more employers coming to us who are interested in diversifying their workforce and expanding their talent pools, and looking to apprenticeship as a key strategy to do that. And so, that's a lot of the conversation that we're having with employers who, often are having challenges in recruiting a workforce, but also, are very committed to diversifying their workforce and thinking about how they can do that. And they're realizing that a lot of the strategies that maybe they've employed in the past, where they're maybe, going to the same recruitment sources for talent, or, using models like internships and others that, create potential barriers to equity, aren't necessarily working, and that apprenticeship really offers promise for them, because it gives people a chance to earn while they learn. It gives the employers an opportunity to try out new talent, and to cultivate that talent within their workforce. So employers are key. Employers are really at the heart of this, and we often are seeing more and more employers coming to us, with that specific idea of, we want to expand and grow our workforce. We think apprenticeship is key to that, and so those conversations, go from that side of the equation to also making sure employers understand their EEO obligations as part of standing up an apprenticeship program. But we also want to make sure that they understand that there's a range of resources and support available as well. We funded a number of industry intermediary partners. Many of them are experts in their industry. We have DEIA objectives for each of those industry intermediaries as well. So there's support that they can get through those intermediaries as well as through JFF Center of Excellence. And so it's really critical. I think employers understand that firms with more diverse workforces are more competitive. It helps their bottom line, but they don't know the best way to move forward, and that they're coming to us seeking that technical assistance and support to think about how they can make registered apprenticeship part of their talent recruitment, retention, and development strategies.
Yeah, and we hear this from the employers that we engage with routinely at JFF. A lot of the questions we do get is on the how, right? They know this is important, and they really want like some one-on-one technical assistance, coaching, or even tools and resources to really help them actually change behavior. And we, through the investment from the Department of Labor, we put out a framework, a DEIA framework focused on employers to think through the various dimensions, from recruitment, from the on-the-job experience, building an inclusive culture. What are the various dimensions that they need to look at? And so what we've heard, it's really that one-on-one resource, and I think you all are doing that with the intermediary contractors that are out there, and also with the centers of excellence investments, providing that one-on-one coaching. You talked earlier about engaging with the communities that have historically been underrepresented in apprenticeship or marginalized. Can you talk a little bit of like how you all are being intentional in making sure that apprenticeship opportunities make their way to those communities?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to do that. There's a couple ways that we do that, some formal and some informal, but probably the most formal way we do that is through our advisory committee on apprenticeship. We've been really blessed that we've had this very active and engaged advisory committee since the beginning of the Biden administration. We just finished up the first term of that group, and the acting secretary just recently announced 30 new members for that committee, and our first meeting's coming up here in June. But that committee itself, really encourage people to take a look at the membership of that group. We really do look to see and how we can have a diverse and broad representation of the entire apprenticeship ecosystem through that advisory committee. We're capped at 30 slots. It feels like it's always such a tough challenge to pick only 30 people, because there's so many great voices and so many great perspectives that we want to have on that committee. So we do our best to really make sure that committee does have a diverse and broad background of viewpoints. So that's obviously one formal way that we do that. We also engage with our federal partners in very serious and significant ways on a whole range of issues. And one of the big advantages that we have there through those partnerships is we're able then to access their networks and their communities as well, whether that's working through the Department of Education and their broad reach into the educational community, but also with commerce and their connections with the business and industry communities, but energy, transportation, so many others. I think that's another important way. But we also launched two really important initiatives in the past couple of years that we think are really important as well. We have the Apprenticeship Ambassador Program, which is an opportunity for stakeholders within the apprenticeship ecosystem to kind of put their hand up and say that they want to be an ambassador for apprenticeship. They want to help promote apprenticeship, support equity efforts. There's a whole host of activities that ambassadors do. We're just amazed at the things that they're doing and telling us about, and we hope to be able to recognize those activities later this summer. But that's been a really powerful tool to connect with the broader apprenticeship community and engage with stakeholders. And then just last fall during National Apprenticeship Week, we announced the Apprenticeship Trailblazer effort, which is, we're starting with young people, but this is the idea of how do we bring people with lived experience, people who have gone through an apprenticeship program, who are products of the apprenticeship system, to be able to share their experience and to be able to tap into their networks, right? I mean, especially young people, they're much more active and much more adept at social media than certainly the federal government is. How can we work with them to tell their story and to amplify the stories that they're telling about how apprenticeship changed their life, impacted their life. And we've been able to use those trailblazers at events here at the Department of Labor and elsewhere. They've introduced the secretary, they've introduced the first lady. It's just been a really powerful mechanism to bring that voice of the apprentice into the system. And so, that again, those are some of the more formal ways. But we stood up a division about a year and a half ago with a really specific focus on promotion and partnerships, with the idea that we really need the internal capacity. Partnerships don't just happen. They need care and nurturing to make sure that they're not just meeting to meet with folks, but that that they're working towards some common goals and have some shared purpose. So that unit has just been incredibly important to make sure that we're sustaining these partnerships that we're trying to stand up, whether it's with the education community, with HBCUs, with the workforce community, with CBOs across the country. Again, there's kind of almost no limit to the kinds of partnerships that we can engage in. It's more just the capacity that we have to do it day to day. But, we're really excited by both the formal partnerships we've been able to stand up, but also the many, many informal partnerships that we have across a whole range of issues and across the country.
Yeah, you shared so much in that response. When we talk about collaboration, partners, and making sure we're working with the communities that have been historically underrepresented and marginalized. Your example with the trailblazers makes me think about classic youth development work, right? Nothing for us without us, right? Having the voices of those critical stakeholders, youth and adult participants in the apprenticeship system, I think is really key. In some of my work in this space, I mean, I learned more from a conversation from an apprentice than reading the National Apprenticeship Act, right? Young people and other participants have had great things to share. I talked with a group in Virginia of some apprentices where they shared really tiny tidbits about their experience that help shift programs, incorporating a feedback loop, right? I'm in this training, I'm on the job, but there's no way for me to tell you every day about my experience. So doing that minor tweak is something that came up in a conversation with an apprentice, or
Yeah.
just minor things from their experience in the day-to-day. We do a lot with training mentors, right? Like
Mhm.
really digging into the resources that's needed to be an effective mentor to an apprentice on the job. So all of those things you can learn from conversations with the ambassadors, with the trailblazers, and it's great to see that, popping up at the department, so then programs can, make sure to incorporate that,
Absolutely.
where they're doing the work in their communities. So you touch a little bit on like the successful collaborations that you've had, but I've witnessed it at every meeting that I go to in DC, where I see
Mhm.
DOL, I see commerce, I see education, and it's really visible that the work that you're all doing across agencies, it's all aligned, right? So can you talk a little bit about like successful collaboration? You touch on partnerships, but like that you all are engaging in.
Sure. It's always hard to pick out just one. There's so much activity happening, across the country. Both not just here nationally with OA, but with our in our regional offices. Our regional office has been, Site One, working incredibly closely with Puerto Rico to help in their recovery, and that's just been an incredible partnership. But our staff and our state partners that work at the state and local level, and the myriad of partnerships that are happening every day. But I'll just highlight two real quickly. I mentioned one earlier, but this investment with Trade Futures and the partnership that we have with them, is really something that we're incredibly excited about, and I think has so much potential in this space. Again, it's the single largest investment in pre-apprenticeship, but Trades Futures is also partnered with the National Urban League, has partnered with a range of other organizations, groups like Chicago Women in Trades and others, with the idea of if we can significantly expand the availability of quality pre-apprenticeship, and they've committed to putting over 11,000 individuals through pre-apprenticeship programs and placing 7,000 of those individuals in registered apprenticeship programs, that those partnerships with the National Urban League, with groups like Chicago Women in Trades, and then creating and replicating those partnerships all across the country in local areas is incredibly important. We're also working closely, folks like Brit Stitch and others are working very closely on a number of place-based initiatives. We have the Good Jobs, Good Cities efforts that are happening here. There's the workforce hubs that the White House is leading, and ETA is strongly engaged in a number of those hubs, working in places like Pittsburgh, working in parts of Southeast the United States to support efforts there. So those are a whole range of efforts where, again, we're trying to think holistically and think about how we bring the range of resources available here at ETA to support those efforts. And then, of course, we see efforts from our industry intermediaries in this space. I'll just highlight one. The Restaurant Association is working really closely with the Skills Enrichment Center, and they provide services to increase access to people with disabilities. We haven't really talked about that as much. That's also an important effort for us to increase access to apprenticeship for people with disabilities, and their efforts and their partnership with folks like the Skills Enrichment Center has started to expand and grow. We see other models happening where states like Colorado and others are also working with them and expanding the scope beyond just the restaurant industry to include IT and traditional construction careers, and to work with individuals with autism and others. So there's some really exciting opportunities out there that are showing that with the right resources, with the right supports, with the right partnerships, we can really open doors and provide access and opportunities through registered apprenticeship to really life changing and family sustaining careers.
Great. Thank you so much, John. I have one last question. I know, folks are listening to this conversation, but they kind of want to know, looking ahead, what should they be on the lookout for from the Office of Apprenticeship, and how can organizations like JFF, the Centers of Excellence, and apprenticeship ecosystem partners really contribute to these efforts?
Yeah, sure. Well, a lot of them we have touched on, but I'll talk about a couple things that we haven't talked about yet. Excuse me. The first is the president just recently signed an executive order on expanding apprenticeship in the federal government, and this is really exciting. This has been something that the apprenticeship community has asked for quite a long time. And so there's two main thrusts of that executive order. One is to expand the use of apprenticeship in the federal government. So think of public service apprenticeships. So that's a big piece. But the second part is to encourage federal agencies to think about how they can utilize apprenticeship in both grants and contracts. So that work is just starting to come together with the standing up of an interagency work group. But we're really excited to work again with our federal partners to think about where else could apprenticeship be embedded in federal grants and federal contracts. And obviously that money ultimately then goes out all across the country through different initiatives. So, those are going to be key areas that, those listening today can certainly engage with as those funding opportunities come out. But also, as those federal agencies might be doing listening sessions and other things about getting community input, it'd be great to hear from people to think about, where are some new opportunities to expand apprenticeship through these different levers. Another big effort that we're anticipating soon is Treasury will be finalizing their final rule on the Inflation Reduction Act. And, this is, again, really important. It's kind of part of the big three pillars of Invest in America initiatives with the infrastructure law, CHIPS, and IRA. But, IRA is the first federal tax credit to incentivize the adoption of apprenticeship. And so, there are a lot of eyes on this, and a lot of people will be looking to see, how effective this is in expanding apprenticeship. But it really, again, does spur the creation of jobs in clean energy and careers in clean energy. And as we've mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that those opportunities are available to all Americans. So again, I think all of these projects are, again, implemented at the local level. And so engaging with your local elected officials and others to be sure that these infrastructure projects that are happening all across the country, that, that there is equitable access to those opportunities. But we'll be rolling out, I'm sure as Treasury finalizes their regulatory process, we'll be working with, states and others to put out additional guidance and to support that work. So again, really encourage people to look forward to that and to think about the opportunities that are available at the state and local level. And then the last thing I'll mention, we've been doing a series of sector sprints since the beginning of this administration. We've done trucking, we've done cyber, we've done manufacturing, but the teacher apprenticeships have also been a big success story for apprenticeship. This is something where over a year ago, there were no apprenticeship programs for teachers. Now I think it's over 36 states and Puerto Rico have teacher apprenticeships. So it really shows the power of these sector solutions. And so I would say look forward to more efforts like that.
And we will. This has been just a really informative conversation. I feel privileged. I'm able to get all of these insights first, but I really do want to thank you, John, for a wonderful conversation about the current state and future directions of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in apprenticeship. There's so much for us to look forward to and participate in. We see the department stepping up with the public sector initiative as an employer. We all are employers. Let's build out apprenticeship pathways in our own organization. We can take a first step in leading there. So, and IRA and all of the things that are happening across our communities. There's just so much energy, and apprenticeship is part of that solution, and apprenticeship gets us to the JFF North Star goal, and it's an opportunity that what I'm seeing will be made available and accessible to all workers and learners. Again, thank you so much for your time and for participating in our summit. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Good afternoon. I am honored to extend a warm welcome to each of you as we convene today to champion an initiative that holds immense promise for the future of both our HBCUs and the broader landscape of higher education. The integration of registered apprenticeship programs within our esteemed institutions. As the Senior Associate Director for the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity through historically Black colleges and universities, it is both a privilege and a responsibility to spearhead efforts that not only uplift our HBCUs, but also pave pathways of opportunity for our students and communities. Today, we gather to recognize the significance of registered apprenticeships and underscore their potential to transform lives and shape a more inclusive and prosperous economy. I am thrilled to announce that the JFF National Center for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility in Registered Apprenticeship, in partnership with the Center for Minority Serving Institution, has expanded its support through engagement and providing technical assistance in registered apprenticeship program development within HBCUs. This partnership has led to increased interest and engagement within HBCUs nationally, making a pivotal moment in our collective journey toward equity and excellence. At the heart of our mission lies a commitment to empower students with the skills, knowledge, and experiences necessary to thrive in today's dynamic workforce. Registered apprenticeship programs represent a powerful conduit for achieving this goal. By marrying academic rigor and practical hands-on training, these programs equip students with the tools to excel in their chosen fields while simultaneously meeting the evolving needs of employers. Furthermore, registered apprenticeship stands as the gold standard of workforce development programs, proven over a century to deliver tangible results, which makes it the opportune time for HBCUs to explore their role in the apprenticeship system. The integration of registered apprenticeships within the fabric of higher education amplifies the impact of these programs, fostering synergies between academia and industry that drive innovation, promote lifelong learning, and cultivate a pipeline of diverse talent. By harnessing the collective expertise of our HBCUs and industry partners, we can unlock new pathways to success for our students while fueling economic growth and prosperity for generations to come. As we embark on this journey together, let us remain steadfast in our commitment to excellence, equity, and opportunity. Let us embrace the transformative power of education and the boundless potential of partnership. Let us seize this moment to shape a future where every student, regardless of background or circumstance, can realize their dreams and contribute meaningfully to society. Thank you for your dedication to this vital cause, and I look forward to the fruitful discussions and collaborations that lie ahead.
Welcome to the JFF Summit Session, Educational Pathways to Career Success, the Apprenticeship Advantage. Thank you, Dr. Rahman and the White House Initiative on HBCUs for your constant support of HBCUs and registered apprenticeship. Also, thank you to John Ladd for his continued leadership as the National Apprenticeship Administrator, as well as Miriam Sullivan from JFF for her work with JFF's Center for Apprenticeship Work-Based Learning. In today's dynamic landscape, where equitable access to opportunities remains a pressing concern, the importance of initiatives like apprenticeships cannot be overstated. They not only provide individuals with the skills and knowledge needed for thriving careers, but also pave the way for inclusive economic growth. Throughout this session, we'll explore how apprenticeships play a pivotal role in bridging the gap between education and meaningful employment, particularly within underserved communities. Our esteemed speakers, representing various facets of this ecosystem, from academia to industry to government, will share valuable insights and experiences on collaborative efforts that are shaping the future of workforce development. So let's embark on this journey together as we uncover the strategies and practices that are driving positive change and empowering individuals to realize their full potential. I'm honored today to be joined by three dynamic women for this conversation. First off, I have Stephanie Willis Turner, who is the director at the Mobile Infirmary Nursing Systems. She's the director of the Nursing School Partnership and Programs. I'm also joined by Tawana Robinson, who is a project manager for the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship. And I'm also joined by Demita Hill, who is the executive director and Community and Workforce Development at Trenholm State Community College. Welcome, ladies, to this conversation.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna dive right into this because time is money and money is time. So we're just gonna dive right in and start giving the folks what they came to see. Demita, I'm coming directly to you. Can you share the distinction between the definitions of an HBCU and an HBCC?
Yes. So HBCU stands for historically Black college or university, and then HBCC stands for historically Black community colleges. We have for years heard about HBCUs, but the HBCCs is kind of a new thing, if you will. Currently, there are 12 historically Black community colleges in the nation, and 6 of those are in the state of Alabama. So, wanted to just kind of lay that out as far as what the differences are. So 2 years at the community colleges offering associate degrees, and then 4-year institutions that are colleges and universities.
Thank you. I wanted to get that out there, right? Because I know when me and you talked before, you're like, remember, it's HBCC, we're not a HBCU. So I wanted to make sure, but they're both in the same exact boat, essentially. It's just their designations. So thank you for giving that those definitions. Staying with you, Demita. So how do apprenticeship programs at HBCUs and HBCCs effectively integrate academic learning with hands-on experience to foster that talent development and produce job-ready apprentices? Can you provide any specific examples of how this integration occurs within your program at Trenholm State Community College?
Okay. Yes. So apprenticeship programs typically combine classroom instruction with on-the-job training, which gives students an opportunity to have a well-rounded education and practical experience in their chosen fields. So when we do this with this hands-on experience and academic learning, the students are able to have the opportunity to develop the skills and knowledge that they need in their future careers. We're looking at making sure that the students receive high quality training, mentorship opportunities, both of which significantly enhance their readiness upon completion of the programs. And essentially apprenticeship programs play a crucial role in really developing that talent and preparing our students for careers in a variety of industries. One of the ways that we do that here at Trenholm State is through one example, our FAME program, which is really geared toward manufacturing students. And with the FAME program, we have 8 manufacturing arena partners who have agreed to place our students in roles where they are in school 2 days a week, and they actually are working for pay 3 days a week at the respective companies. So again, that is that integration where we're making sure that the students are receiving that educational piece, that academic educational piece, as well as the actual hands-on working piece as well. Those partners make sure that the students have access to career readiness opportunities at the college. We make sure that we put them in touch with our success coaches to be sure that if there are any academic deficiencies or just anything that the students need on the college's end, we're ready to make sure that we're producing and giving these students what they need so that when the internships and the apprenticeships are all complete, then the employers have folks that are basically hitting the ground running.
Great. Thank you for that. That is, it's so impactful. And I love the conversation around how you've been creating those programs and creating support for that, which leads me directly into our employer, our lone employer on the panel, which I'm really excited to have Stephanie Willis Turner here representing Mobile Infirmary. Stephanie, as an employer, why have you all really leaned into the registered apprenticeship model as a tool for building a strong talent pipeline into your organization?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. We saw this as an opportunity, as a way to get a couple of things for us, as a way to get trained employees at the bedside to take care of patients. We also saw this opportunity to help the workforce post-COVID, because that's when we started really digging into the apprenticeship program. Post-COVID patient care, particularly with me being a nurse at the bedside, was hard. And we visited an idea of what can we do and how can we do something different in order to get more staff at the bedside to take care of the patients, and how can we also get people back into the workforce post-COVID. And so we looked at the apprenticeship program because that's a partnering relationship of everything that I just mentioned. We started this venture about 1.5 years ago, trying to make it work, ups and downs and peaks and valleys with it, but we've continued to support the apprenticeship program, and we know that what we've seen so far has been a great outcome for us.
Thank you. And it's so impactful. The conversations with employers, I love those conversations when you find out the reasons why they've engaged in registered apprenticeship, because they're so vast. There's so many different reasons why, and the opportunities that exist once they engage. So thank you so much for that insight, Stephanie. Tawana. So in recent years, we've seen an increase in the use of registered apprenticeships as a valuable pipeline tool by organizations such as Mobile Infirmary. In Alabama, under the great leadership of State Director Josh Laney, you have been doing some fantastic work in engaging with HBCUs and HBCCs and the employers that are connected to them for these conversations. What has been the secret sauce to the success of these collaborations?
Oh, that's a great question. And Director Laney has done an amazing job of making sure that we've been able to be as successful as we have. And one of the main reasons for that, believe it or not, is really simple. Communication is the key to all of this. Building relationships and great communication. The relationships that we have with business and industry, the relationships that we have with our educational providers, the relationships with other government agencies and community agencies that support our programs. Those are all vital to the success of the work that we do. So having those connections and making sure that everyone is aware of those connections and how we can all work together. A lot of times, I would say back in the day, because we don't do silos. It's not about silos anymore. Everyone in their individual world and space, all working to get to the same place. Collaboration is the key to the success for these programs, and also letting everyone know that we are open to that communication. We are available, really stepping into the space and saying, what can we do to help facilitate these relationships? What can we do to help connect the dots between these various agencies and educators and industries to make sure that all these pieces come together so that we have outcomes that are really achievable and that really make a difference in terms of building out our workforce and our talent pipelines here in the state of Alabama. So basically, switching to a mode of outcome-based measures where we are really looking to say, what do we need to do to make this success happen? Speaking to everyone involved, getting that collaboration going, and then, making sure that we're all moving in the same direction together.
Yeah, you pointed. There's so many gems that you dropped in that response. One of the ones that I pick out the most is relationships. The value of relationships is totally undersold in the apprenticeship world, and I think that's one of the things that many people don't understand of how to get employers to engage is to build those relationships. How to get educational institutions to engage, building relationships. How to get those state agencies around apprenticeship to engage is through relationships. And as I think about that, I go back to you, Stephanie, and these relationships are key. Come as an employer, but also know you have a unique perspective into these relationships as an adjunct faculty at a HBCC. So I want to know, how do you approach building and maintaining long-term partnerships with the HBCCs to support the workforce development and your talent acquisition goals at Mobile Infirmary? Can you share any of those strategies or best practices for establishing those mutually beneficial relationships that endure over time?
So I know it's probably going to sound redundant, but a lot of it's just what Tawana mentioned is open, honest communication. No false expectations. You know, if we can't do it, we can't do it. And if we can, we'll do everything that we can to make it happen. Being in front of and be a part of the HBCCs has been important because it puts me as the face for the hospital, but it also puts me as that face for the HBCC. My decision to become an adjunct faculty with our local HBCC was for reasons so I can see it from two sides. I can bring back to the organization of infirmary health what the HBCC needs, but I can also take to the HBCC what we need from them and how we can better partner and come in the middle and make it work. So I'm with them every day, almost. Either it's by phone or I'm at the school. I actually have went to be a guest speaker at the school as of yesterday. I was there yesterday. And so as I see these students and these leaders in the community, they recognize me. And that helps me continue to build my relationship with them and my trust on both ends. So that's been important to us as we continue to pursue our endeavor for apprenticeship and helping it to grow in the HBCCs.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Throwing it back to you, Tawana, because Stephanie hit on something here. And, as we think about the collaboration between industry stakeholders, educational institutions, and government agencies, how important is it in identifying and addressing those skills gaps that they experience utilizing registered apprenticeship programs?
It is crucial to being able to build out these programs in a way that they're going to be beneficial to the business and industry partners, to the apprentices themselves, as well as to the communities that they're going to be going out and working in. So super important. Each one plays a very important role in how that apprenticeship is built and the components that make up that apprenticeship program. You're going to have the industry partners, which are going to come in and they're going to let us know what's essential to that industry. What's going on, what's the technologies that are needed, what skills are needed for that individual to come into that space and be able to work and contribute to that organization effectively. They're going to also hire and mentor those apprentices, and provide support to them. You're going to have your government agencies, which are going to also provide oversight for these programs, but they also provide additional insight into the industry. There may be funding or incentive opportunities that are available through those partners as well. Our educators, they're providing that educational experience that the apprentices are going to be relying on throughout that training. So collaborating with that communication and collaboration with those business and industry partners is just essential to the success of how those programs are built out and the way those training plans are created. We don't do cookie cutter. We want to make sure that the programs that we are building are meeting the needs of business and industry, and that the individuals coming out on the other side are high quality, well-trained, highly skilled employees for those organizations. And that is how you get there.
Tawana, I could not have said it better myself. I love it. Thank you so much. So we've had our foot on the gas pedal here, and we've been racing, cruising down the apprenticeship highway here. I'm gonna set it on cruise control here, and I'm gonna throw it over here to you, Demita, because I really, really want to capture the essence of the importance that HBCUs and HBCCs play in the role of engaging the apprenticeship system. And we know that both HBCUs and HBCCs have a rich history of fostering community engagement and providing culturally responsive education. How does this cultural context influence and design the implementation of apprenticeship programs at HBCUs and HBCCs? And how can it contribute to more inclusive and a more equitable workforce development initiative?
So we understand at HBCUs and HBCCs, we really have a deep understanding of the cultural backgrounds, life experiences of our students. And so So that allows us to effectively work with our business and industry partners to tailor apprenticeship programs to meet the unique needs as well as those particular strengths of our students. This allows us to really create an inclusive and supportive learning environment where our students feel valued, empowered to succeed because they know that the institution is behind them. We want them to be successful in their respective careers as they move into the workforce. Our history of a community engagement absolutely works in our favor when it comes to developing those strong partnerships that we have with our local businesses and various organizations. So it makes it easier for us to really go out and form those alliances to help promote the apprenticeships in various areas. Networking is huge. We always stress that to students because we want them to understand that, yes, the academic portion is certainly the academics and the workforce development portions of their educational experience are so important, but you've got to be able to also understand the importance of being able to have those soft skills communications where you can actually go out and speak with someone and effectively communicate to them about what it is that you are able to bring to the table. So really kind of incorporating that cultural relevance, community collaborations, those networking opportunities. We as an HBCC really help to bridge the gap between education and workforce development, which in turn fosters more equitable and diverse workplaces, which is certainly everyone's goal.
It definitely is. And I like to think about the fact that many times in many conversations I've been in over the past few years, engaging with HBCUs and HBCCs, the registered apprenticeship idea is so foreign because it, for employers have not looked to engage with historically Black colleges and universities or historically Black community colleges for their talent pipeline. It's a little disheartening, and I think that there's just a total misunderstanding within the system of how to engage and what that looks like. And that's why I find this conversation so important, because if we can dispel any myths or rumors, I mean, there's millions of myths or rumors about the registered apprenticeship system, but if we could dispel these myths and rumors about HBCUs and HBCCs and what their ultimate goal is, which is to engage their students with a high quality education and get their students engaged into the workforce system in very well-paying, family-sustaining careers, I think we can really start to move the needle on this conversation. And it really does come down to folks like Stephanie, who has been a driving force behind that at Mobile Infirmary, as well as being an adjunct faculty at HBCC. Stephanie, can you share any of the successes with the graduates and programs that Mobile Infirmary has? And I know you all currently engage with a different community college for your pipeline, and you've started to engage with the local HBCC. But can you share some of those successes? I know when we've talked, you've shared a story of how you have the ability as the employer, excuse me, allergy season, excuse me, y'all. You as the employer really have the ability to dictate to the community college, hey, this is what our needs are. And those community colleges are able to meet those needs. So I'd love for you to share some of that with us.
Okay, not only am I an adjunct faculty, but I also want to say I graduated from the HBCC that I'm now an adjunct faculty at. So I do want to say that as well. So the success that we have had ventures around the graduates that we've had from our current apprenticeship partnership. We've had a total of 10 graduates thus far for the nursing program. All of those have passed their NCLEX exam on the first attempt. And that is something to be unheard of for 10 to successfully pass on the first attempt, because the NCLEX is a difficult test to take. We also have been able to increase our enrollments just by the success that we've had. Currently, I have 22 nurse apprentices right now in our program. Actually, I am going to see 6 of them get pinned today. and I will be taking on another 20 starting next week. So the program has actually grown from me starting with 9 to now I'll have over 35 by the end of the month. So, and the word of mouth and the success that they're having really is what is driving this and growing this program. So, knowing that the system has trusted me to allow me to communicate and to be the face of it, the HBCCs, really speaks volume. And again, it's always better to have that one point of contact so that you know directly who to go to with any issues or any concerns. You know, you heard me mention earlier that I was at the HBCC on yesterday doing a guest lecture, but I also had opportunity to go into the administrative office and say, look, this is what we need to do to continue to move forward with the program in order to partnership with them for their apprenticeship.
First and foremost, congratulations. To hear that we're, you know, a healthcare system that is saddled and burdened by the needs and trying to identify quality workers. It sounds like Mobile Infirmary has figured it out. I mean, putting through that many registered apprentices in nursing is absolutely amazing. You know, as the former state director of the Wisconsin apprenticeship system, I know the value that industry plays, especially in these emerging industries. People think about apprenticeship, the word apprenticeship, they think about the trades, they think about construction, manufacturing. And Stephanie, you even talked about that because your husband is a plumber, if I'm correct. And, you know, when you have that conversation with him, he's like, how are you going to have apprenticeship, you know, in nursing, right? Thinking about what that means. And we've seen these emergent industries really come to the forefront in the past 5, 6, 7 years to really start driving the conversation, not only with identifying a diverse talent pipeline, but also creating that equity. Tawana, I want to put a pin in this and say, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have a sneaking suspicion that industry played a tremendous impact with getting the nursing credentials approved for registered apprenticeship within the state of Alabama, along with legislation. Am I correct?
That is absolutely correct. It was definitely a group effort to get that thing done. You know, having various medical associations go to bat for this program to say, hey, we need this. To take it to state legislature and to, you know, advocate for a registered apprenticeship in nursing, which it was unheard of to have someone go into the field before graduating from the program. So, you know, going to them, saying this was a need, and then getting the approval for the apprenticeship. There's a license that is attached to the apprenticeship program that is only given to nurses participating in our registered apprenticeship program that allows them to go into that workspace and work under supervision, of course, of qualified nurse, and have these amazing experiences that are facilitating this success. We're seeing higher completion rates. We're seeing them passing the NCLEX the first time, just like Stephanie said. It's been amazing, but you have to have that partnership and that relationship with business and industry to really make these things happen. It's not magic. It's not automatic. It does take work, but when we collaborate and we work together as partners, we can get it there. And this nursing apprenticeship program is a prime example of how business and industry came together with educational institutions, government agencies, and went in there and made this thing happen. And we are benefiting here in the state of Alabama by having these amazing men and women that are going through these programs now go out into our communities and provide us with excellent, outstanding healthcare.
Yeah, I think it's a true testament to the great work you all are doing at the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship to even engage in these conversations and bring everybody to the table and give them the proper context of what that looks like. And I think that goes across the country with all of our states, our state agencies, as well as our federal Office of Apprenticeship, really engaging industry in those conversations. I know one part of those conversations, Stephanie, I want to throw this back to you. I know when we spoke in New Orleans at the conference that we spoke at, one of the things that really impressed upon me that I'd like for you to address is Mobile Infirmary really supports their apprentices by being flexible and addressing those apprentice needs as they come up. And you're adjusting the programs based on the apprentice voice and feedback. Can you give us a little insight into that? I mean, that is a tremendous promising practice. That's also one of the things that we talk about here at JFF in our program design framework is really employers responding to the apprentice voice and feedback that they receive?
Of course, as students, they had some concerns about, insurance and benefits and things like that. When we initially started our apprenticeship program, we thought about the option to put them in what's called a flex status position, which means they come in and do their clinical day and really don't have to come in again until they have another clinical day. And I took a step back and I was like, really, what is the benefit of it being an apprenticeship if you're only going to come in on your regularly scheduled clinical work days? You're not going to get any additional training. So as I pulled my apprentices together and started talking to them, again, we really didn't know how this was going to look. I started asking them, what are some things that you guys see that we can do different? Or what do you need? The number one answer that I got was benefits. Benefits. Most of these students that are going to school are parents, their mothers, their fathers, or their adopted aunts, so whatever they may be. And so they needed insurance benefits. And they needed to know that when they're going to be off work studying or cramming for these exams, that they're still going to be able to get paid. So I went back to my administrative team and I said, look, why can't we offer them regular part-time, which means at least they're here 2 days a week or 3 days a week. That's additional training that allows them to get insurance benefits just like a regular employee. We also allow them to get PTO earned, so they have paid time off. So if family, because life happens, if family events happen and life happens and they need some time off, we can just plug it in with their ETO or their PTO time, and they're still getting paid for those hours. And so listening to the apprentices and listening to their needs and how we can better meet them halfway while they're still giving us what we need was a win-win for all of us. And I think too, listening to them and them knowing that we're on their team has really, again, helped us advance to where we are with our nurse apprenticeship program.
That is an absolutely fantastic answer. And I love every part of that answer. It shows the tremendous flexibility that employers are offering. So many people think that employers are just, they're hard nosed and it's this way or that way. But you all have listened to those apprentices and you've changed your model to make sure that you're not only being a good employer, but you're being a good steward to these students who are coming into the workforce and who want to engage in a career. And I think about that, Demita, as I bring it back to you and think about, right, when you hear an employer say stuff like this, as the executive director of community and workforce development, when you hear an employer say something like this, how does that make you feel as you continue to engage and try to identify employers who could be successful organizations for your students that are going into registered apprenticeship? How does that make you feel to say, we have an opportunity to collaborate with really good businesses out here that want to build strong registered apprenticeship programs?
So the first thing that we strive to do is make sure that we have communicated exactly what it is that we are expecting with regard to outcomes for the students by participating in those apprenticeships, and also making sure that we understand what the employer's expectations are with regard to the apprenticeships. Just making sure that the goals, needs are focused on, met, understood. We also want to be sure that there's going to be ongoing support both on behalf of the business as well as on behalf of the college. We want to make sure that first and foremost, there's also a vision and commitment to diversity and inclusion, since we are, a historically Black community college. And then two, we want to be sure that there is trust and respect in the workplace. We want to be sure that students are going to be not minimized, but certainly valued for what it is that they're bringing to the organization. And then obviously making sure that we are continuously evaluating the apprenticeship, making sure that we're meeting the milestones, those things that we need to be sure are checked off. And again, at the end of the day, we're really looking to be sure that the apprenticeship leads to an opportunity for students to really, really be in a position to have the best outcomes possible for themselves and their families.
Yeah, and I think that's the conversation that I've had with HBCUs and HBCCs with presidents and provosts around our institutions. They are, folks come here because they want a good education. They want to know that they're going to be taken care of, and parents send their young Black and brown teens when they're teenagers, right? They're 18. They send them to these institutions because they know that they're going to be taken care of. And I think it's so key to hear that employers say that they're going to be as flexible as they can. And then hear you also say, Demita, that you all are making sure and ensuring that they're getting everything they need to be supported when they go into working for those employers while they're at the HBCU or the HBCC. As we wrap up here, I'd like to throw a question, this final question here. So please feel free to give your true context of your answer to this question. But we know that there are all types of folks joining us today in this conversation, whether they are from academia, whether they are from industry, they may be from government, they may be industry intermediaries. They might be a parent who's considering sending their kid to an HBCU and not knowing that apprenticeship is an actual opportunity. So with our audience made up of some of everyone, what advice can you share with them about engaging with HBCUs and HBCCs to create a strong and diverse talent pipeline for their organizations? And I would like for each of you to speak from your own personal perspective where you stand now, whether it's industry, government, or academia. I'll start with you first, Demita.
Okay. I would say because we try to engage and be sure that we are meeting the needs on a community level, and ensuring that, because we know our communities, we want to be sure that any opportunities that are presented are ones that are going to certainly have outcomes that are going to be beneficial to our students. We certainly want to make sure that outcomes are also going to be beneficial to those business and industry partners that come into relationship with us. One of the things that I tell people all the time is do not overlook your local community college. We have a wealth of programming. We have a wealth of opportunities for business and industry clients, as well as our students, families, to really, really move the needle in terms of those employment opportunities that are going to benefit everyone at the end of the day. I tell people all the time, you really, just give us a call. Because in the workforce development arena in community colleges, we're able to stand up programming, we're able to stand up job shadowing opportunities, any type of opportunities that will lead to a more skilled and trained workforce. We can do that very, very quickly. It's just a matter of the communication piece and companies reaching out to us to let us know what their needs are. And we try to make sure that we fulfill those needs in a way that's going to be beneficial to all parties involved.
Thank you, Demita. Stephanie, same question.
So I would say ask questions. Ask questions of the industry, ask questions of the schools, see where they can meet in the middle to provide the needs that you need for your organization. And my next question that I would ask is, why not do a registered apprenticeship program? What are your fears? Knowing that the registered apprenticeship program is really an asset to an organization, and it's an asset to the school, because the student wins, the organization wins, and the college wins. So I do feel that the registered apprenticeship program is a sure win. Without the registered apprenticeship program, some of the students may not be able to attend school just because of the financial obligation that school brings about. We all know that. We've been to college. We know that it brings about a financial obligation and a hardship on families if you don't have that financial means and that financial support. So I would say open, honest communication, ask questions. Don't be afraid to say what you need. As an organization, Tawana and I work really close together to get this registered apprenticeship, particularly for healthcare, up and going. And so, I asked a lot of questions myself, being a representative for my employee, but I needed to understand. I needed to understand so I can better take it back to the HBCCs, and so I can better take it back to my leaders and the students to say, this is what we can do and this is what we can't do.
Ooh, asking questions. I love it.
Mhm.
And I know that segues directly into Tawana, because as I said, as a former state director, that's the number one thing I used to say is ask whatever question. I train my staff to have employers ask whatever questions they have, because there are no dumb questions in registered apprenticeship. There are just a lot of myths and rumors and mistruths out there. So Tawana, I'm you know, the bases are loaded, bottom of the ninth, the World Series, you're up to bat. The count is 0-2, and I'm throwing you one right down the middle. So I'm gonna see what you do with it here. But what advice do you have that you could share with engaging with HBCUs and HBCCs to create those strong and diverse talent pipelines for their organizations?
Well, Josh, I'm with you. Both Demita and Stephanie have knocked it out of the park. You know, not overlooking those HBCUs and those community colleges in your state in terms of connecting for those opportunities through business and industry, making those partnerships happen, asking questions as an employer and an educator to see where those connections lie. So just to kind of sum all that up, we're looking at effective communication, building those relationships, and also building these programs with intentionality in terms of diversity and inclusion. All of those things have to come together to make these things happen and work. And I just feel that, you know, we do a really great job of doing that here in the state of Alabama. You know, we like to say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So if we are doing all the things, if we are communicating effectively, right? If we are building these relationships, answering those questions, putting those pieces together, we have now, you know, that secret sauce you were talking about for success earlier, that's where that secret sauce comes in at. And these are the things that we have to do. We have to make sure that when we are doing these things, we're doing them with intentionality, that we're communicating effectively, and that we're really working to build out our talent pipeline in a way that's going to be a bit beneficial to everyone. This is not just a one-hit wonder. We want business and industry to be successful. We want our apprentices to be successful, and we want our communities to benefit from these amazing opportunities where individuals are going to go out into our communities and work and support each other. So this is crucial to the success of these programs. It is crucial that we make sure there's awareness about these programs. Get out there and learn more about apprenticeship. Learn more about all work-based learning opportunities. HBCCs and HBCUs have amazing internship, co-op, and apprenticeship opportunities. We want to make sure that the word gets out that these opportunities exist and that everyone at these schools are in a position to access these opportunities. So having that accessibility available to anyone who's interested in these opportunities. And that comes from both sides. As a student, as a parent, you know, as an industry partner, we want to make sure everyone has access to these opportunities.
Thank you, Tawana. And in true mama form, stay ready. You ain't got to get ready. That's the message. If you don't learn nothing else today, y'all, from listening, stay ready. You ain't got to get ready. You know, today we were able to hear from representatives of academia, industry, and government about how they were able to really make this whole registered apprenticeship thing work. How do they make it move? How do they engage it? What's needed to move it? And we encourage each and every one of you that are joining us today to reach out to JFF's DEIA Center of Excellence to discuss how you too can engage in this registered apprenticeship conversation. No matter where you're at, no matter who you are, no matter what aspect you're coming to the registered apprenticeship system from, we want you to reach out to us. We can offer free, no-cost technical assistance, and we stand ready to further this conversation of engagement between HBCCs, HBCUs, industry, and government. The time is now to think how we can effectively provide our HBCU and HBC students with access to careers they may not have known, because the promise of apprenticeship is truly right for anyone. I want to thank you, a sincere thank you to my sisters, Demita, Tawana, and Stephanie again for your time and immense knowledge on this topic. And I want to thank each and every one of you who have joined us today for this impactful conversation.
Thank you all for joining us on the first day of the Building Inclusive Pathways Through Registered Apprenticeship Summit. Your active participation and insightful contributions have made today a resounding success. We hope you found these sessions informative and inspiring. We are appreciative of the insights shared by our esteemed speaker and panelists. A special thank you to the Department of Labor's Administrator, Mr. John Ladd, as well as the Senior Associate Director for the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity through HBCUs, Dr. Arthur McMahon. Both for their time and their contributions today, we are appreciative. As we continue to explore ways to create inclusive apprenticeship opportunities, we look forward to your continued engagement tomorrow for our 2 sessions, Startup Success through DEIA Apprenticeships and Using Apprentice Voice to create a more inclusive registered apprenticeship program. Have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. As a reminder, links to apply for technical assistance will be shared in the chat and in the session description. Thank you.